most white people dance to the lyrics. So here's what you got to do: is write some like heartfelt. Don't think about a groove. Think about it like it's a bumper sticker.
Okay.
You know, life's a bitch. Life's a bitch. Life's a bitch. Life's a bitch. Life's a bitch, but keep on trucking. Life's a bitch, but keep on trucking. So that's what you do. You got to pay off the chorus. Yeah.
Thanks, Dave. So, if you haven't seen that, check it out immediately. That is Dave Grohl showing, of course, Cage, Kyle Gass, how to write a hit. Because apparently, that's all he writes. But anyway, I thought there was no better way to introduce that than that lovely bit. And if you haven't seen the bit, it gets so much better from there. Just wonderful. Those two together, Jack Black in the mix, put that song out. I'd listen to it. Anyway, we're here because this little ditty right here, Mr. Sonic Highways, Foo Fighters' newest album. I know this is late because, well, it was out like a month ago, practically at this point, right? Anyway, better late than never. So the Foo Fighters, most people know a lot about the Foo Fighters because Dave Grohl is like, I don't know, rock and roll's main man, their leading icon in the pop culture world. But there are some things that people don't know, so I feel like I should at least cover some of the history. Let's do some history on the Foo Fighters. So the Foo Fighters, of course, are from the dissolved group Nirvana, when Dave Grohl formed the group out of grief when the former bandmate Kurt Cobain committed suicide. Really actually started really much as a solo project. You know, prior to the 1995 debut, Grohl actually went deciding whether he wanted to be a drummer and got an offer even from the couple of bands. Major one, though, he got an offer to be a full-time member of Tom Petty's band, the Heartbreakers. Decided he didn't want to do that, he wanted to do something differently. So he moved on from there, found out that Sunny Day Real Estate, a band in the area, was breaking up, so he hired Nate Mendel and William Goldsmith, as well as Pat Smear, touring Nirvana guitarist, to complete a lineup, and they put out the first album. Goldsmith quit before the second album, Color and the Shape, but most of the drum parts were re-recorded by Grohl himself, and then Smear would leave soon after that. They were quickly replaced by, of course, famous now Taylor Hawkins, the drum machine in the back, Franz Stahl respectively, although Stahl was fired before the recording of the third album, There's Nothing Left to Lose in 1999, and they originally traveled as a trio, get ahead of myself there. Chris Shefflett joined the band as the lead guitarist in the completion of There's Nothing Left to Lose. Around 2001, a little tidbit I found out on my own, it's not something that's known, is that Taylor Hawkins, the drummer of the drummer of the Foo Fighters, actually went into a coma for 2 weeks following a heroin overdose. So I thought that was not a fact that a lot of people know, and apparently Dave Grohl was there pretty much the entire time he was there, and he stayed in the hospital sleeping and eating there until he came out of the coma. Following that, In Your Honor in 2005, because they took a while off, Dave wrote some solo stuff on his own, and he wanted to turn it into a two-parter because he thought he could do something interesting, and it was a one album full Foo Fighters, second album acoustic. Mostly Dave written on that. From there, they went into the sixth album, Echoes, Silence, Patience, and Grace, in 2007. 2010, Smear returns as a touring Foo Fighters and official member, and then, of course, they went on to win a ton of Grammys for Wasting Light in 2011. Butch Vig from Nirvana enters the fray. We get so many cool things from Dave Grohl, I can't even go into it all, but the newest studio album, Sonic Highways, and the amazing HBO special are out now. Really, I mean, this band has got a lot. You gotta go into it because there's just too much to talk about. It's one of those things that it's really hard to describe Dave Grohl because he's such a pop culture icon. Like, he was the drummer for all the Tenacious D albums. He's been a member of Ghost in the background. Nobody even knows that unless you've looked it up. He's been in the Avett Brothers band for a spell just for fun. He plays drums with, Paul McCartney. Members of Zeppelin have jammed with him on stage. He made a band, them Crooked Vultures, like I said, with Led Zeppelin's bassist, John Paul Jones. He's best friends with Trent Reznor and Josh Homme. He is just like the man of rock. He's like the spokesman, and I'm perfectly happy with that because he's great. So before we talk any more about that, because I could talk about Dave Grohl all day, I want to get into this because this was tough for me. I'm a huge Foo Fighters fan, and I mean huge. Being unbiased on this was one of the most difficult things I'll do all year, but I'm going to do it because I'm a critic at heart, so here we go. I got to write up but I'm not going to use much of it because I know this pretty well. The Foo Fighters are my thing. Again, the Foo Fighters are one of the biggest rock bands in the world. It's not even an opinion at this point, it's just fact. This album is no exception, it's huge. They recorded 8 songs in 8 cities following the globe. You can even see it on the inside of the cover here. Every song was recorded in one of these 8 cities. Listed, you got Chicago, New York, Tennessee's got Nashville, we got LA, Washington, D.C., Seattle, Hollywood, New Orleans, the big ones. 8 tracks, 8 cities, all recorded on the spot in this town. Not on the spot, but they got in the town. They would get a little bit of the town under their belt, recruit some guests, and they would go from there, work with the people of their cities. It was huge. Alongside of that, they recorded an 8-episode documentary recording process of each episode, and they talk about the music of the city, and it's incredible things that happened in these studios throughout the world of music, and it's just awesome. Dave is a musical genius and a nerd, so the documentary is amazing. The album serves as the soundtrack to the documentary. Whether it actually holds up on its own as an actual standing piece of music, let's find out. First song on the track is called Something From Nothing. It's the lead staple Foo Fighters album single. You know the one. When you're listening to the Foo Fighters singles, you get that similar sound on the opening track, but it's always it's like one of the best songs on the album. Usually, sometimes it is the best song. In this case, it's not. I wouldn't say it's the best, but definitely one of the top ones. Something From Nothing actually borrows a little bit of a guitar riff from our friend Dio on Holy Diver. Some people say he's ripping him off, but I personally think that it's just like an homage. He isn't the kind of person that would do that because I think he just really wanted to show off one of his heroes here. And he does. The riff is cool, the song is great, it's the lead single for a reason. Obviously, he knows how to write hits. This is a hit machine, as they talked about. The riffs just build. The vocals go from extreme verse, quiet, louder, screaming, I'm something from nothing. This song is the usual kick in the door song. Like the Pretender, Bridge Burning, All My Life Before It. You know what you're getting. Usual formula, but it's great. It was recorded in Chicago, featuring Rick Nielsen of Cheap Trick on guitar. As far as actually homing the city's sound, it's alright. It does a decent job of it, I suppose. Number 2, The Feast and the Famine, was recorded in Washington, D.C. with Pete Stahl and Skeeter Thompson of Scream, also backing vocals from Bad Brains, the punk band, hardcore group. This song starts with a lyric intro before exploding into the chorus, and this song sounds like it was influenced heavily by punk rock, and it really suits them well. Honestly, I think it's the closest they've come to a sequel to Monkey Wrench, period. They really just jam out loud all the way through to the end of this one. Similar would be like on Mind Your Manners, the Pearl Jam single on their last album, Lightning. It's seriously awesome. It's my favorite song on the album, and it's a highlight. Congregation was recorded in Nashville, Tennessee with the help of Zac Brown. I thought I was going to get some serious country flavor like on Wheels on this one, with Zac Brown on the track, but it doesn't really do that. It's not country as much as it is kind of Foo Fighters with some southern rock-infused solos from Zac. And he really is featured well on this with a southern-sounding guitar solo. Better than most of the guests, to be honest. You can't even tell most of them are here if I don't tell you. I couldn't unless I looked it up. This song ends with a huge build chorus one last time, and it's very catchy, but it's been getting mixed reviews. Personally, I like it. Following that, we get to a song that I'm kind of mixed on. What Did I Do, God Is My Witness? The Foo's real foray into country. This is an Austin, Texas recorded song with brilliant guitar player Gary Clark Jr. He's a blues guitarist. You hear that name and you're like, this? Austin? Oh my god, they could just nail the blues on this, but it ends up being my least favorite song on the album, honestly. It just doesn't make enough use of Gary's guitar work and soulful vocal talents. He's got one solo and he's done, and the song really bothers me because it's one of the weaker songs lyrically that I've heard from the Foo Fighters, period. And I really mean it. It's sad to say. Outside was recorded in Los Angeles with the help of Joe Walsh of the Eagles on guitar. This is the song, to me, that's the best example of where they've perfectly matched recording the sound of the area. This is a nail on the hammer on the head of the SoCal rock sound. Joe Walsh shines here. He really does. 6 is In the Clear. It was recorded in New Orleans with the help of the Preservation Hall Jazz Band. I know, right? I heard that and I got really excited too because I remember when I first heard My Morning Jackets cover, they played through with Preservation Hall Jazz Band on so many tracks from Evil Urges, and every time it was amazing. I thought that was going to be what it was, but it isn't, and it comes up short. you can't even really tell they're there. It's sad to say, but you can't. You can barely hear the horns. They're there. It's a decent song, but it's a wasted opportunity. It could have been like a huge Springsteen-style jam. But it's a Foos anthem, standard. Subterranean is another song that was recorded in Seattle with the help of Ben Gibbard of Death Cab for Cutie. They go for indie rock. Well, you know, they could have gone for like grunge, Nirvana, Seattle, whatever. Get past it. There's nothing to be found here. I mean, Ben Gibbard is like not here. I can't even tell he's here. It's the slowest song on the album, and it just feels like a missed opportunity. It's an okay ballad, but it's lacking something. Something here is not clicking. Then we get to the song that kind of saves this from an average review to me, and that's I Am a River. It was recorded in New York City with the help of Tony Visconti and Kirsten Young, and this is one of the most diverse songs on the album, and even, I would say, in their catalog, because it's so different from their normal sound, the Foo Fighters sound. It's also one of the strongest songs here because of that. They use some seriously strong string and keyboard arrangements to build to a larger-than-life rock anthem. I love this song, and I feel like it's going to be a huge concert staple on their tour. I don't know. When I first pictured this album, I thought it was going to be one of the biggest things of the year and maybe even the decade because of what it could have been. Dave's such a music nerd. I thought the Foo Fighters were trying to emulate the city and the sound of the places they were going into their sound. I know he's stated since then that was not the intention, but I feel like it should have been because there's so much that could have been accomplished. I mean, when you think about all the stars they bring in here and all the cities, they could have done so much. The problem here is I think that they put a lot of problems in this. Is too much ambition. It's exciting, I mean, but it limits them. Creatively, they have to go into these cities and pretty much right on the spot because they wanted to get a feel for the city first. And it forces them to be just, improvise, and I'm not so sure that even the Foo Fighters are that good. And another criticism, I think, personally, that Butch Vig may have not been the best choice for this because he was perfect for Wasting Light. Standard 90s, huge garage rock sound. That's what he does. He's great at that. But I think getting a producer with a little bit more variety for this project would have helped because it's so mainstreamed when it was supposed to be so diverse. Here, this is what I pictured when I pictured this album. You get to something from nothing. You get into Chicago. You get the sound of Chicago, the Smashing Pumpkins, your vibe of the rock sound in Chicago. And they sort of do that a little bit Cheap Trick-ish here, but you can't really tell. That's fine. It's a really good song. The Feast and the Famine is one of the better examples, but I still think they could have dove in farther with Bad Brains and gone full punk rock. From there, it could have been just Congregation straight out. Don't even fake it. Go straight into a country rock jam. I mean, you did it on Wheels and it sounded great. Don't half-ass it. Go for it. For blues, man. Bring the blues. Have Gary Clark just let loose. Have him singing some soulful over-the-top background choruses, sort of like Aretha Franklin style, and just let him go for it. It could have been so great. Outside, again, they did a decent job of this one, but with the others not catching up, it doesn't feel like it just doesn't mesh. In the clear, the horns, man. Use the horns. You had this huge opportunity to work with these amazing musicians and make an interesting sound, diversify your catalog and jam, and you kind of wasted it. And Subterranean, I mean, really, picture this. Flip I Am the River and Subterranean, you get this huge I Am the River sound and it's great. And you think, oh my god, why wouldn't they end with this? And then you get to Subterranean and out comes, featuring guests, would be a jam of mega grunge stars from Seattle all come together on one track. And the first time they've tried to sound grunge since Nirvana, and they just blow the doors down on this one as an all-star grunge jam. And that's what closes the album, and that's what closes the HBO series. Oh my god, think of how cool that would have been. It would have been like the moment of the decade. Everyone would have been like, we've been waiting since 90s for a grunge Foo Fighters, Dave, to go back to that era. And they sort of do it with Paul, but this would have been the opportunity of a lifetime. And I feel like it falls short. It's still a solid album. They have never made a bad album, but it could have been an amazing album. I'm going to give it 4 out of 5 stars. Check out Something from Nothing, Feast and the Famine, Outside, and definitely I Am the River. That song is amazing. Thanks for listening. Got another one coming up right now.